Alright, it's still the morning of day 20. It's been about an hour since a lot of these videos, like I always say, I have a very nice burst of energy and happiness right in the morning. So a lot of these morning videos, when you see daylight behind me, um, it's I wake up and I'm in like that spirit where I want to make a video and blah blah blah. But I figured, you know what? Instead of just talking about symptoms in my life and personal stuff, I'm just going to go ahead and tell a story. And this is probably going to be graphic. It's probably going to be disappointing. And to be honest, it's probably not going to reflect well on my character. But if you haven't figured out that I am a junkie, essentially, or was a junkie, um, then you're getting the wrong vibes from me. But let me just tell you this first, is I was an H user. I'm trying to use like cryptic words so this doesn't get like unfamily friendly. From about 2011 to 2016, really bad. I was into needles and all that. But around 2017, I got a charge. So I kind of stopped. And I'll tell this whole story eventually. But what stopped me from going down to Baltimore, because I'm a Marylander, was I robbed a dealer and I couldn't go back down because I thought they'd kill me if I went back. And I'm pretty sure they would. So that kind of got me clean there for a couple years. But there have been a few times where I've relapsed on, you know, the powdery stuff. I would say from 2019 to 2020 to present day, I've probably done it for short spurts of time about 6 or 7 times, but I've never gone back to every day. Um, so there have been a few times I've gone down to Baltimore. When you walk in the garden, you better watch your back. You gotta keep the devil way down in the hole. The Wire. It is exactly like The Wire. Um, so there was a few times in 2021 where I would go down because what I used to do is you would go to East Baltimore and you would call a number and a runner is like a typically young Baltimore black, would drive up to you and serve you in half ounces or ounces, or not ounces, grams. But that was too much money. So I eventually found out you could just drive to Pennsylvania Avenue, which is like Skid Row, House of the Rising Sun. It's really depressing. If you want to depress yourself, dude, go down to Pennsylvania Avenue in Baltimore at any time of the day. You just see like a bunch of white prostitute girls around. People are standing, nodding. The police are literally watching people deal. It is an open air drug market. So I would go down to Pennsylvania Avenue and you just pull up to a corner. Um, you see a couple corner boys there, and they eventually walk up and knock on your window and go, "What you need?" And usually, when you get into the inner city Pennsylvania Avenue area of Baltimore, they sell caps, and they're really cheap, and it's really dangerous. Um, Back when I was like a daily user, I'm pretty sure I was still doing H, but now it's all Fetty Wap. And if you don't know what Fetty Wap is, and I have to be cryptic, Fent dot 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 anal Fent Fetty Wap, and you would get these caps. And I remember in the past couple years, if you pour just a little bit of that stuff out, you could overdose. It's really sad how strong it's got and also how bad it's got. It's not even fun. If you do that, present day 2022, Fetty Wap, you're going to just be throwing up, sleeping, and also it doesn't take that long to get a habit. It used to be you'd have to do it for like a week to get a habit, but there were times where I would do it for like a day or two. And after I ran out, man, I'd wake up and it would be just like Ooh, this is really dark. Like the last time I went on a binge, I woke up and I could hear a voice in my, this sounds crazy. I could hear a voice in my head going, "You messed up now, Brandon. Here it comes." And it was just sweat, fear, shaking in bed. Ooh, it was really bad. But the reason I stopped going was, one, it was too sketchy to go down there. Like, you never know if you're gonna get robbed. You never know if you're gonna, like, it's pretty easy to just pull up to a couple corner boys and just get. But it always felt too unsafe. And also, if you get locked up in a Baltimore jail, I don't want to go to no Baltimore jail. Not as a white boy. Not in this life. But I had a dude. I won't say his name. I was gonna say, because they do. It's like The Wire. They all have code names. Um, let's just call him Scratch. The guy's name was Scratch. Well, one day I was driving around and I didn't know who exactly to pull up to. And I pulled up to this guy, and he was an older gentleman. He walked up. He said, "What you need?" But he looked really like nervous or something, and he kept looking at his boys from across the street. And I just got this bad intuition feeling of like, you know what? I'm not gonna go with this guy. And I finally just said, "Hey man, never mind." And he went, "Well, what you need, motherfucker?" And I'm like, dude, I pulled away. And then I saw this kid, and he's walking down the street, and he's wearing full cheetah pimp outfit. And this is what they do. If you're driving around Baltimore looking, you drive by them, and they go, "Hey, up!" That's like the junkie's call. So this kid did that. "Hey, up!" And I pulled up. He said, "Hey, man, what's up?" He got in my car. Like, I didn't even ask him to get in the car. I don't even know this guy. And he gets in and he's like, "Hey man, can you drive me down?" Like, the Baltimore accent. How much you want? Two? You want two? Okay. Yeah, just pull up down the street, man. I'm going with them. Anyway, this kid ended up being pretty cool, and he became my dude. And I would go down every once in a while. I would never get a habit again. But eventually, I was getting really sick of driving this kid who was dressed in full pimp cheetah outfit around, because I didn't know what he had on him. And one time I pulled up, I called him, drove down, pulled up. Him and his brother got in the car. And I'm like, dude, and I hate to say this, but if you drive around Baltimore and it's a white guy and a black guy in a car, they are going to pull you over because they know what you're doing. But one day they got in the car, and his brother was in the back, and I kept looking back at him, and he was just like clutching his fists, and he was really pissed off. And I said, "Hey, what's going on? Like, where are we going? What are we doing?" And Scratch, my dude, said, "Oh, real quick, we're gonna go down the spot, go around the cut, and my brother wants to fight this dude." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, can you pull up here?" And we pulled up, and it's really just sketchy area of Baltimore. And his little brother got out the car with him, Scratch. And they walked up to this guy on the corner, and Scratch's brother just walks up to the guy, boom, 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 boom. And they jumped the absolute crap out of this guy. And I'm sitting there watching this, and I'm like, I made a mental note in my head. I said, I'm never going to meet up with this dude again. Like, this is getting too sketchy. Finally, he comes back. They beat the living piss out of this guy. I don't know what he did. Gets in the car, and we drive back. He hands me the stuff. And then, for some reason, okay, so I have to rewind a little bit. About a week prior, I met him, and Scratch was like, "Hey, man, can you get me a camera? Like, I think they're only like $200. And I'm like, no, like, why can't you get a camera, dude? Go get a camera. Or use your phone, dude. Who uses digital cameras anymore? And he was like, "You and I, man, we could link up. We could be like Adam 22. Adam 22, I guess this kid was a fan of Adam 22. So I was like, yeah, man, I'll get you the camera. Fast forward to this time, I'm about to let him out of my car, and I got the stuff, and I'm ready to dip out of this sketchy city. And he's like, man, you ain't getting me that camera. And I was like, dude, I don't, like, okay, I don't know what to say. And eventually, he wouldn't leave the car. And I'm like, just nodding my head. And to be honest, this kid was really hard to understand because the Baltimore accent is so thick. So it eventually turned into like he was raising his voice. He was like, man, you ride with me, I will take you to the top, man. I ain't snitch on nobody. Nobody, man. I done two years down in the county, and I didn't know what the hell he was talking about. But he was getting more and more aggressive, and I started to realize this kid is not leaving my car. And two, it feels like he's about to rob me because he was just hanging out of my car looking at me. But he kept looking around. And I'm like, what? Can you just let me? I almost literally said to him, dude, just let me go. Like, what is this? And finally, he was like, ah, man, I see you getting irritated, so I'm gonna let you go, man. But seriously, I needed that camera, bro, man. I needed that camera. And I'm like, ah. And here's another thing, is every time I would pick this kid up, he would act different every time. He was really a neurotic behavior. And there were times where I drove to the spot and he would just like get out of my car and start rapping. Like he was hanging out of my door and I'm just like, come on, man, let's get out of here. And he would just start rapping like, I did a little, and I'm like, what are you doing, dude? The whole point of being here is to be discreet and you're hanging out of my car door rapping? That's when I made the mental note, I'm never going back down there again. So that is the sole purpose. I am never going down to that city again. It is way too sketchy. When you do meet a dealer, they will hang outside of your car door and start rapping. So I hope you like that story. I didn't want to make this, these videos get kind of boring. I figured I'd tell a story at least. So hope y'all are doing well.